In baseball history, moments of silence at the ballpark are usually reserved for legends of the game, players, managers, broadcasters who shaped America's pastime. But at Yankee Stadium, fans recently witnessed something entirely different. The tribute wasn't for a ballplayer, but for a political figure, Charlie Kirk. Why would one of the most iconic franchises in sports stop the game to honor a man who never stepped into the batter's box? And what does this say about the bond between sports, politics, and American culture? Charlie Kirk was not a ballplayer, nor a coach, nor an owner. He was a political activist, the founder of Turning Point USA, and one of the most visible young conservative voices in the country. He made his mark not with a bat or a glove, but with speeches, debates, and commentary that reached millions, especially younger Americans. In early September, during a public event in Utah, Kirk was shot in a shocking act of violence. News of his death rippled through the nation. Politicians reacted, commentators weighed in, supporters mourned. And then, in a moment no one could have predicted, baseball entered the story. This was not a routine ritual. Yankee Stadium, the cathedral of baseball, has hosted countless memorials for its own legends. Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle, Thurman Munson, Yogi Berra. But for Charlie Kirk, that was something different. It caught fans by surprise, sparking both respect and debate. Baseball has always been more than just a sport. It's a mirror of America itself, its triumphs, its divisions, its resilience. When the Yankees paused to honor Charlie Kirk, it forced many people to reflect on the relationship between sports and society. For some fans, the tribute was a simple matter of humanity. A man had been killed in a shocking act of violence, and regardless of politics, acknowledging his passing was an act of respect. In their eyes, the Yankees did the right thing. After all, stadiums have always been places where the nation comes together, not only to cheer, but also to mourn. But for others, the moment raised questions that cut to the heart of American culture. Should politics enter the ballpark at all? Baseball has often been celebrated as an escape, a place where people can leave behind the headlines and arguments of the outside world. For those fans, the idea of honoring a political figure even briefly felt like crossing a line. Yet history tells us that sports and politics have never been entirely separate. Jackie Robinson's debut in 1947 was not just a baseball milestone, it was a civil rights milestone. When President Franklin D. Roosevelt gave his green light letter during World War II, encouraging baseball to continue despite the conflict, it was an explicit acknowledgement that the game mattered to national morale. After the 11th of September attacks, the return of baseball symbolized resilience and healing for an entire country. In that sense, the Yankees' gesture toward Charlie Kirk fits into a long tradition of baseball responding to the broader moment. It may not have been universally accepted, but it highlighted something important. Baseball is part of the American story. And when the American story takes a dramatic turn, whether joyful or tragic, the game reflects it. So, was the tribute political? Maybe. Was it human? Absolutely. And that tension between politics and humanity, between escape and reflection, is exactly what makes the moment so compelling. Charlie Kirk's journey was unusual for someone who would end up remembered at Yankee Stadium. Born in 1,993 inches, the Chicago suburbs, Kirk grew up in an ordinary middle-class family. As a boy, he didn't dream of politics. He was fascinated by history, current events, and public speaking. But for most of his early life, he seemed destined for a fairly normal path. That changed when, as a teenager, Kirk became increasingly engaged in political debates. By the time he was 18, he had already established himself as a provocative voice in conservative circles. In 2012, instead of heading straight into college like most of his peers, he founded Turning Point USA, a nonprofit dedicated to promoting conservative ideas on campuses. At first, it was small, just a handful of students, pamphlets, and events. But under Kirk's relentless drive, Turning Point USA exploded in size and influence. Within a few years, it was hosting massive conferences, attracting high-profile speakers, and building one of the most recognizable conservative brands for young Americans. Kirk became a regular guest on cable news programs, where his fiery debates made him both admired and criticized. He mastered social media, using Twitter, podcasts, and live events to amplify his message. To supporters, he was a fearless truth-teller, standing up to entrenched institutions. To critics, he was a polarizing figure who stoked division. What no one could deny, however, was his reach. By his late 20s, Kirk had become one of the most prominent political influencers of his generation. He was not an elected official, but his influence rivaled that of many politicians. Kirk also built personal connections with high-profile figures. He frequently appeared at political rallies, often introducing or sharing the stage with top leaders. His events drew thousands of young people, many of whom saw him as a mentor or role model. Beyond politics, Kirk was also known for his commentary on culture, faith, and education. He often spoke about the importance of religion in American life, the value of tradition, and the challenges facing young people. His style was direct, uncompromising, and intentionally provocative. And while he never had ties to professional sports, his base in Chicago, home to the Cubs and White Sox, meant that baseball was always in the background of his life. Pictures of him attending games as a fan occasionally surfaced online, reminders that even the most political figures can still be part of America's pastime. By the time of his tragic death in Utah, Kirk had built both a devoted following and a long list of critics. But whether you agreed with him or not, his influence was undeniable. He had carved out a unique space in American life, one that extended far enough that even the Yankees, a team synonymous with tradition and national identity, chose to honor him. The New York Yankees, perhaps more than any other franchise in sports, carry with them a sense of history and ceremony. Yankee Stadium is often called the Cathedral of Baseball, not just because of the legends who played there, but because of the way the team and its fans have paused to honor life, loss, and legacy. Moments of silence at Yankee Stadium have become part of the team's identity, stretching across generations. One of the most unforgettable came in the summer of 1979, when catcher Thurman Munson was killed in a plane crash. Munson was not just the team's captain, he was its heart and soul. On the night after his death, the Yankees took the field without him for the very first time. Before a packed stadium, the announcer called for silence. Tens of thousands of fans stood still. The players, many with tears streaming down their faces, stood shoulder to shoulder. The stadium, normally roaring with chants and cheers, was so quiet you could hear the wind. That silence became a memorial more powerful than any words could express. 2 decades later, in the fall of 2001, tragedy struck the nation. After the September 11th terrorist attacks, New York City was grieving, fearful, and searching for hope. Baseball returned to Yankee Stadium less than 3 weeks later, and once again, silence took over. The team held multiple moments of silence throughout that season to honor victims, firefighters, and police officers who had given their lives. In a city known for its noise, the quiet inside the stadium was overwhelming. For many, it felt like a collective prayer, a moment when baseball became a vessel for healing. The tradition continued in 2015, when Yankees fans said goodbye to Yogi Berra. For decades, Yogi had been more than a player. He was a cultural figure, known for his 10 World Series rings, his Hall of Fame career, and his unforgettable Yogi-isms. When he passed away at the age of 90, the Yankees invited their fans to bow their heads once more. The silence that day wasn't just about losing a player, it was about losing a piece of baseball's soul. And there have been others. The Yankees have paused for presidents, including John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan. They have paused for civil servants, for police officers and firefighters who fell in the line of duty. They have even paused for tragedies outside of sports, entirely moments when the world felt heavy, and baseball recognized that some things are bigger than the game. These silences are not interruptions, they are reminders. In a ballpark built for sound and spectacle, silence becomes sacred. For a brief minute, rivalries fade, arguments vanish, and the only thing left is memory. It is against this backdrop that the Yankees' tribute to Charlie Kirk took place. The stadium has long been a stage where America reflects on itself. Whether the honoree was a legendary catcher, a beloved cultural figure, or victims of national tragedy, the Yankees have shown that baseball is part of the larger American story. By giving Charlie Kirk a moment of silence, the team continued that tradition, acknowledging that when the nation pauses, so too does its pastime. The Yankees' moment of silence was not about endorsing Kirk's politics. It was about acknowledging his role as a public figure whose death shocked the nation. In many ways, it was an act of compassion, a reminder that baseball is part of the fabric of American life, and that the sport, like the country, pauses when tragedy strikes. Fans in the stadium may have disagreed about Kirk's ideas, but for that minute, disagreement was set aside. Silence filled the air, not arguments. And in that silence, baseball once again showed its unique power to unify, even if only briefly, people from all walks of life. Moments of silence at the ballpark are rare, and when they happen, they remind us of baseball's place in American culture. The Yankees' tribute to Charlie Kirk was unusual, unexpected, and deeply symbolic. It sparked debate. Should the game remain untouched by politics, or is it natural for America's pastime to reflect America's reality? One thing is certain, this event reminded fans that baseball is never just about balls and strikes. It's about people, about culture, about memory. And, in Yankee Stadium, for one quiet minute, it was about Charlie Kirk. So, what do you think? Did the Yankees do the right thing by honoring Kirk? Or should sports remain separate from politics? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories where baseball meets history.